Okay, so this is After Effects. That's the interface. And the first thing I want to say about the interface is that it might look different under different situations. So these panels here can be, first of all, torn away from where they are, and everything can change. And for a beginner, you might be lost as to where everything is. For example, here, it's now different than the way it was before. And you see, it's going to be a bit strange to go back to, or a bit hard to go back to what we had before. But everything can be regained. If I go to workspace up here, you see I have different presets that I can choose from to get back to the default. What I had before is the standard, and here now, if I click on standard, I'm still in the same layout that I messed up myself. So to actually go back to what I had at the beginning, the factory settings, I can go to standard and choose reset standard, because that's the default. If I reset it and choose discard changes, so don't really mind what I did, everything will go back to normal. So that's very important when you are working with these panels and you mess them up, either by mistake or on purpose. To get back to normal, go to standard and reset standard. In case you have a workspace that you really want to use and you changed something, you can go and create a new workspace, and that will be available here, and you can use that from now on. Alright, so what's the logic behind working in After Effects? If I look here, there's my project, which is empty so far. And inside my project, I'm going to have images, I'm going to have movies, I'm going to have music files that I'm going to be importing here. And I'm going to be using them to create a movie. And that's what I'm going to be doing right now. So if I choose File, I have Import, and I'll choose File. The shortcut is Control-I. But I don't really use File, Import, nor Control-I, because if I double-click here, like you do in Photoshop, you can actually import things fast instead of choosing File and Import something. So double-click, and I'm going to go to a directory on my hard disk where I have some images. And let's bring an image. For example, this one here. And now I have the image added to my project. It's not yet in something that I call a composition. A composition is what you're going to be, the movie that you're going to be creating. So far, my movie is empty. I have in my project an image, but my actual movie or my composition is empty. So to actually use the image, I have to use it in my composition, or put it in my composition. If I look down here, I can be looking for something. In case I have a lot of items in my project, I can find something. For example, if I type BU and choose OK, it's gonna be looking for that. For example, for bugs, I can create folders, but more importantly here, I can create a new composition. So the composition is gonna become your movie. The project will contain the items that you're going to be using in your movie, but the actual movie will be rendered or created from the composition. So if I click here, I am creating a new composition, so that's one way. Another way is to go to Composition and New Composition. So it gives you the same thing, but preferably, faster way is to click here to create a new composition. Let's call the composition My First Movie. Now here, whenever you are creating something for TV, we have to account for the screen size. How big is the screen size for TV, I mean, in pixels. You have a fixed size that you have to use. The PAL system is what we use here in Lebanon and in Europe, while in the States and Canada they use the NTSCS, which has a different size than the PAL system. So while we are working here, we're going to use the PAL system, and if I go to preset, here I have some presets that I can use. What I choose is PAL D1DV, and that would give me the actual width and height to be 720 times 576. So in case you work in a TV station, or you work in an advertising company, or you work in a production house where they produce video clips for singers and so forth, that's the resolution that you're going to use, 720 times 576. All right, and you have it as a preset by choosing PAL D1DV. And also our frame rate, which is how many images are displayed per second, because you know that in animation is a series of images that are displayed per second. When you look at TV, program on TV, every 1 second you are seeing 25 images repetitively, one after the other. That's why the frame rate for TV is 25 frames per second. So when you look at TV, you are seeing 25 images per second. And you have a gradual motion for each image, which will create the illusion that there is actually a movie, an animation. When you go to the movies, to the theater, the frame rate is 24. So every second you are seeing 24 images. You see those little frames on the roll of the movie? So it rolls so that in 1 second, you have seen 24 images. And this will create the impression that you have motion. And what we are doing is exactly the same. We are creating static frames. Every frame is 1 image, but we are displaying them at a certain frame rate, which is 25 in our case. So we're going to use this all the time. These values, we use them all the time in this class. So this will create the impression that we have actually motion. So that's how animation is created on the computer and displayed on screen. So these are the settings. And the resolution here, it doesn't really affect the final render, but it affects the playback speed inside After Effects. We're going to leave that to full for now, which is the quality of the images or the movie that we're creating, but we can change this later. The start time is 0 seconds, so we start at 0, and the duration of our movie that we're going to create, here it's 10 seconds. I'm going to reduce it down to, let's say, 4 seconds. So this is frames. I repeat that every 25 frames are 1 second. This is frames, this is seconds, this is minutes, and this is hours. All right, so let's say we're creating now a test movie that's going to be 4 seconds. At any time you can change this. So you're not really restricted to what you enter now here. You can change it at any time and it will still work. I'll press OK, and now I have a composition called my first movie. All right, and it's empty. You see it's black. And what I want to do now is bring in that image and put it inside the composition. One way to do it is to drag it like this. I'm going to undo and repeat. So you can click on the image and drag it down inside the composition. You see the plus sign, meaning that it's now inside, and you also see it down here. I'm going to undo. Another way is to drag it down to the timeline and it will be added to the composition. Another way is to drag it here and there also to be added to the composition. So 3 ways. I prefer to actually drag it down to the timeline because it's visual what you are doing and you see that you actually added the image to your composition.